I can cut that on my phone.
All right. What's up, guys? My name is Andy. I am here with my calligraphy intern, Kat, who is a Western Michigan University dietetics undergrad, soon to be pursuing internship. And today we're going to talk all about, what's on the hoodies, which is calligraphy, writing, all that good stuff. So Kat, yeah, before we get into the good stuff, just take a second, introduce yourself, tell us what you're up to right now, and then we're going to kind of go through how it all started between us.
Okay, perfect. So I am Catherine, whatever you want to say. And I have started with Andy, like a year ago now, maybe
Yep.
last year. We started working together and started calligraphy, and I did some blog writing for him. And yep, I'm currently a dietetics student, hoping to start my internship this year and hopefully be a dietitian by this time next year. So, yeah.
Yeah. So what's interesting, what's probably a fun story before we get to the rest is like, how you and I crossed paths and, how it turned into you. Because at the end of the day, you've written a number of really good blog posts,
Yeah.
which represent yourself, but and your portfolio, but that are on my
Mhm.
website that perform very well. And we're going to get into all that, but that changed my views on the salience of certain topics in health. So you've done a
Yeah.
lot of good stuff. Honestly, you encouraged me to change how I approach Canva. So a lot of good stuff has happened.
Yeah.
But how did it get started? Where did we where
Yeah.
did we cross paths the first time? I'll let you tell the story. It's not that epic, but
Yeah, so I was like volunteering with a student Instagram account, and somebody from Canada, shout out Anisha, she knew Andy and had him come, and we kind of just like met, connected that way, and then he just messaged me, and I was kind of like, hey, if you need any help, like I'm looking for some volunteer work. I knew he was kind of in a position with writing and blogging that I was looking to be in when I was a dietitian. So when I saw someone who I was like, oh, that's kind of a job that I want to do, it was like, let me reach out, see if he needs any help. And he was like, yeah, do you know Canva? And I was like, yeah, I know a
yeah.
little bit. I dabble in Canva. And he was like, okay, well, let's meet and talk about
Modest. Yeah, no, you were definitely my Canva savior, and then you're a lot of people's Canva savior now, but we'll talk about that in a
Yeah.
bit. But yeah, just to clarify, okay, so basically, I mean, I was doing, if I have it correct, right, I was doing kind of a presentation for your nutrition communication group, just giving my views on writing and blogging and the value of that.
Yeah.
And then you had reached out to me after that, and we just went from there. And I was like, yeah, I definitely need help on Canva.
Yeah.
And then it got to the good stuff, which is like we kind of kind of connected over your fair to say your love for writing, right? You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I loved writing. I was always one of those that had like a bunch of like half written like blog posts, in my Google Docs, like
Yeah.
getting dusty and stuff. So I knew like I wanted to write, but I didn't know where to start. And so when I knew you were into writing, I was like, oh, and I knew like you advertised calligraphy a little bit. So I kind of was like, you know what, I want to do that. I want to learn about writing. And so I think we kind of found like a mutual agreement where I can help you and then you could help me. And it kind of worked out on both ends.
Yeah. No, that's pretty much exactly it. It's been mutually beneficial, like on a number of levels. And it all okay. The question is now, and I'm a bit fuzzy on this because I know we all know about the eczema piece, and we're going to talk
Yeah.
about that. But was that the first article that you wrote for
Yeah.
me?
Eczema was the first article.
Okay, well, tell us your side of that story, because this is funny now. At the time, it maybe wasn't as funny, but tell us what you think about how that went and
Okay.
how I was at that time, and then
Okay.
just be honest. It's all good. You can be completely honest.
Yeah. So Andy was like, okay, you're gonna write an article on eczema because
No.
I love skin health. I'm super into skin health. So he was like, let's do a topic that you like your comfort zone. Okay. So I write this article. I like send it to my mom to read. Like everyone's telling me like great. They're like, this is good. Like my first article. I'm like, okay, like I was like feeling good about it, like did what I thought I was supposed to do and then sent it over to him. He basically sends it back like completely rewritten, barely any of my own words. And it was just like, oh, really? I definitely got a little bit upset, a little bit. Cause like, you put all your like heart and
Right.
effort and you think it's so good. And then for it to get like completely, like I was so off base. And I think that was what just like got me a little, like not upset, but I was
Yeah, and I knew
disappointed.
you, and I yeah, and you didn't, yeah, and you didn't say that at the time, but I pretty much sensed it, and I was like, and I was torn between, obviously sympathetic, like you feel I basically at the end of the day, I did what I felt needed to be done on the article, take it to
Yeah.
the next level, and in the end,
Right.
it was good. It was a good thing to do
Yeah.
because ultimately, I think you learned a lot from that. Your writing improved, and you had a better sense of like what I was looking for. In that moment, I was like, okay, I was walking, I felt very bad. I think hopefully that came across a little bit, but then you walk the fine line between like, look, this is what had to happen. This is part of the process. Like you're not gonna, my sentiment at the time, this is a great message for all young writers or anyone in nutrition in our field. Like you're not gonna write your first article is gonna be a masterpiece. If that was the case, you're like the Mozart of writing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like, and I probably told you this, you have to write one article before you write two, before you write three, before you write four. And so I was trying to balance that kind of like, I don't know, tough love, so to speak, with like, feeling a little bit bad because like I know I could tell, you kind of know what it was. But this is kind of a tough question because I know it was just one article, but if you had to say, what, if anything, you learned from that experience, what you carried over to the next article and the one after that. So I'm kind of putting you on the spot here. What would you say?
Definitely. I know there was a lot of formatting issues. I think when you first start writing a blog, you think, oh, like paragraphs, like you're writing a thesis statement paper because that's what you get like taught in school. But then you were like, oh, you don't have like big groups of words and like really the flow of the article. I felt like you really helped with that a lot, as well as like research. I think a big thing was like just helping decipher like quality research, because that's another thing that I just didn't really know as much about. So I think I would like include like studies from animals or maybe studies from like a super unknown journal. And you were like, yeah, we probably shouldn't include that. Like, that's not very credible. And I think that was like really good. Like even now to this day, that's all tips and stuff that I take with me. So I think those would be a few of the big things, definitely.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Like in terms of like an answer for me to follow up on, that's a perfect answer because like, at the end of the day, you're basically my intern, my whatever you want to call it, volunteer assistant, whatever the case, whatever you want to call it. But when I work with people on their writing, it's like the things that you mentioned. So number one, format, right? Like you're right. People put big blocks of words together, but when you read online, it's much easier to pull sentences with key messages and to be as concise as possible. So that is an easier fix. And definitely that you resolved easily, right?
Yeah.
The second part, which is actually really, really, really common, is like the storytelling part, right? Because when you write a blog, it's like you want to, it might sound funny when you talk about nutrition content, but you really are telling the story, and you're telling the story by using transition sentences, by using good headings, by using good intro sentences, and you want it to flow almost like, you are telling the story. And definitely like your ability to do that improve, because I mean, look, the reality is people can look on my website. They can see that the blogs that you've written, and we're going to talk about the popularity of skin health shortly, but are shared. They're like my most shared blog post is the one on rosacea that you wrote. So, that's a massive accomplishment. But yeah, your ability to tell a story with the writing improved greatly. And that starts with talking about prevalence and then going to the science and going to the actionable points and all of that stuff. And then the final point it was the research. And because one of the biggest things is like, you need to be able to identify the research that's valuable and quickly extract the message. And that's a key skill. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Quickly is the big part too.
Yeah, because you can tell me your thoughts. Like, do you feel like your ability, to do research, understand what like is a good reference versus what is not a good reference? Like, would you say that's improved and that's helped you elsewhere? Like,
Oh, 100%. Even like to any students watching, like even in my class work, like I would say like impact factor, and the other students be like, what are you even talking about? But like that was something that, Andy taught me, was like, oh, you need to go look up the impact factor of the journal and be choosing ones that have higher impact factors, things like that I didn't know. So even like in my schoolwork, it helped so much be able to like decipher good research. And obviously now I even write like paid freelance blog posts, and being able to like not even have to worry about a client even saying my research isn't good, because I don't ever present research that I don't feel like is credible. So I definitely think that was like such a good skill that I learned for sure.
Yeah. And that is like a massive, like, because with the people I work with in the writing, that's a massive roadblock because, look, I mean, it's a balance. Obviously, you need to be aware of the latest research. You have to, understand what the key messages are, the validity of the messages and the source, 100%. But you also need to be able to do that really efficiently, because if you're of the mind that you're going to have to do hours of research to write a single blog post, like you're not writing a research paper, you're writing a blog post. So you have to be able to quickly decipher what the consensus is and translate that to the public, right? And like that's what I do. You know what I mean? Like if it's on Instagram, if it's writing video, like whatever the case is, like that's the biggest skill. And that it's an invaluable skill to have, and it's a very, very important skill for dietitians, which Which, speaking of dietitians, brings us to my next point, which is like where, like, okay, so skin health has become like your area of like specialty for writing. Like, where did that come from? And did you expect it to be as popular as it was? Because that was one thing that like blew my mind.
So, okay, so for those of you who don't know, I really started getting into skin health probably about 4 years ago. I actually started my own little skin company. So I make like skincare for people. And I got really into just learning everything about skin health and, topically and internally what you can eat. And I always knew, because let's be real, like we're all a little superficial. Like we all want our skin, and like skin is very, you can see on the outside, like you want to look good, you want to feel good in your skin. People are very insecure when they don't have good skin, because it's very prevalent to a lot of people right away when someone doesn't have good skin. So I think that is kind of the underlying, like a lot of things you can't tell on the outside if something's going on, but when you have bad skin, everyone can tell. And so I think that a little bit goes into, the popularity of it, in my opinion. So I kind of knew that from the beginning, like skin, like everybody really wants to improve their skin, but I never realized, I guess, with nutrition, like how much there really is starting to be a correlation there. And I think that's what's really interesting for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like case in point, I mean, you also wrote an article on collagen. By the way, collagen is in the top 2-3 selling supplements on Amazon. So that says it all, right? And like collagen is basically, studied and marketed as something to improve, skin health and, whatever, skin hydration, skin health. You're going to have to read Kat's blog if you want to learn. By the way, in the link in the description, I'm going to put a blog post that actually has all of Kat's skin related writing. You've written other articles as well, but those are kind of like, those are like the highlights. So I'm going to put that in the link in the description. So if you guys want to read up more on skin health, you can do that. And I mean, the most common skin condition in the world is acne. I had very bad acne when I was younger. I was on Accutane for a bit. That really sucked.
Were you? I didn't know that actually.
Yeah, okay. I was. I'll never forget this one day. We might as well have, this is a funny story. I was on Accutane, and I went to play soccer in the middle of the day with no sunscreen. I got burned so red because it screws up your skin's ability to make oil, right? My headphones came out. Let me just put them back in. Of course. And so you're really susceptible to sun. So I'll never forget, I was red like a tomato that day. I'm like, I gotta get off this stuff. I had really oily skin when I was younger. It was brutal. So like I can look, it is what it is. Like, right, the aesthetic component is fine, but like I had like literally, I'll just say this now. Like I don't even think I really brought this up before, but like I would go to work and I would I had a part-time summer job, and I would like touch my nose and like have oil on it. I like wash my face in the washroom at work. Like that's not good, right? Like I don't even wash my face now, by the way. So this is just
we'll talk about that after this.
Like I don't wash my face. I don't do anything. Like I don't do anything. I don't use any creams. And like just the kale.
I mean, your skin doesn't look bad, so there you go.
Just the kale, right? The kale takes care of most of those issues. But I mean, it's to your point, right? Because if you are, and back at that time, I wasn't maybe, I'm not saying like, look, food doesn't fix everything. Let's be honest, but it has a massive role to play. Like at that time, though, I wasn't really on point, like gut health wise, diet wise, and and again the skin, and you people who read your work they'll learn about the skin gut access and the connection between gut health and skin health. But whether it's so acne and eczema are the two most common skin conditions globally. But then when you go down the list, you have psoriasis, you know what I mean, and then rosacea, and then you see there's actually like a pretty impressive body of evidence showing that when people with these conditions, who might otherwise just be like, first thing is I need a dermatologist referral, go to the dermatologist. And don't get me wrong, 100%, get the proper medical care. But I don't know to what extent the nutrition related side of it, whether supplementation or dietary changes, is being reflected. And my sense is by the popularity of these articles that maybe it's not being reflected that much.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because a lot of people with like rosacea and psoriasis are getting prescribed really intense like antibiotics, which, could be necessary. But at the same time, we all know what antibiotics can do to your gut. And I feel like that's not what is talked about as much. And that's where the probiotics, the prebiotics, the gut health really comes in. And you can do that alongside the antibiotics. And so much research, it's the probiotic with the antibiotics. So we're not saying don't take the antibiotic. We're just saying these are things you can do that can help alongside your, your conventional medicine treatments. You can eat these foods and it can actually help even more. So I think that's what's really cool, is seeing how you can combine the two together. It doesn't have to be one or the other either. So I think that's super interesting too.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I can't even tell you the amount of again, this is why I love writing, is all the knowledge acquisition, but it's not just knowledge acquisition for the sake of it. It's like, you can talk to clients about it, because if you know that eczema, for example, is the second most common skin condition, like it's going to come up, and like how good are you going to look and how good are you going to feel, because we're all in this to help people at the end of the day, to be able to relay that information. And that's why writing is so valuable. Like even my client, like my calligraphy client Ashley, who does IBD, shout out to Ashley, she's awesome. She's one of the only other people who has one of these hoodies, by the way, so she definitely, she's special. But she mentioned in a testimonial she wrote for me how it, like, writing made her much more confident speaker, garner her more attention for her work, made her a better dietitian. And it's just like, that's what it's all about. And that leads me to my next question, which is, okay, so you've done writing, you're getting all these shares, you're getting recognition for your writing. So tell me a little bit about the rewards you've gotten from writing, whether it's personal, whether it's professional development, whether it's like ultimately financial, whatever you want to share. Give us some insight into like what you've gained, through writing and through sharing your writing.
Well, definitely kind of to like piggyback off what you said about Ashley, like just like with my friends and my family, like just how much more credible I even seem to them, like when they can see and like read my writing and they see me breaking down these like kind of complex, like scientific topics in ways that they can understand. I definitely think that helped from that standpoint as well. But also, yeah, definitely financially. I mean, through writing blogs for Andy, I was then able to start applying to freelance writing positions a lot with like other dietitians or with companies, actually even in skin health, which is really cool. And they would see my work with Andy and they were like, hey, we want you to write for us. And then now I actually have a few clients who I write for and get paid to write. So, as a student, I'm saving up money for my internship. I'm saving up, all that and able to, write at the same time. So it's definitely like been a really great experience. And I'm so glad that I got into doing it.
And how much more impressive, like, as you go through internship, like all the knowledge you acquire, like it's still, the dividends are still going to pay out. And like, that's the thing with writing. It's like, it's not, you have to go through a bit of the hard times. Like, yeah, you got maybe crapped on a little bit with your initial work, but you took the lessons, you applied it for the future. I don't think I crapped, but it's whatever, you know what I mean? Like it's all good.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think I'm even capable of crapping on someone, but that's a different story. But yeah, it's like, it's just one of those things that the dividends are going to keep paying off. And I think that's one of the things I want people to know is like, writing is not one of those, you don't necessarily get instant gratification. I mean, later on in the game, like when you get to a point where you have a following, and you're writing for like 3-4 different platforms, you're writing books, yeah, you get more of that. But in the early days, like, believe me, like people out there, like, and people tell me like, I don't know if I should write, people aren't going to read it. Maybe you write a few pieces and people won't read those 3, but once you write your 10th piece, people are going to go back, they're going to see your old work. It's going to make you more searchable on the internet. It's going to make you seem more credible. It's going to make you smarter. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad to hear, I'm glad to hear some of those reflections. I'm looking forward to more. We got one article we're working on right now. That's the next question. I forget.
Well, also I want to add though, is like the great number one thing I feel like as like dietitians, dietetic students, like we want to get good quality information to the public, and writing is one of the best ways. I think Andy and I have both seen that. And we like, when we share our writing to people, like we get like thanked, like so many people are so thankful for like good, especially like in skin health and these topics like IBD, all these topics that maybe aren't getting written about enough, like to have good quality evidence, like you're helping people, like you're giving them free valuable information. And I feel like that's one of the coolest parts. Like that's why we do it, So I think that's a good thing to, I've
got tons of clients from all over writing as well. But tell us about how your Facebook blows up after you make posts in certain groups. That's awesome. I don't get to see that much of that. I see the screenshots, but I'm happy that it's there though.
Yeah, no, we do like some content marketing, and when we like post our articles in like a skin group, just so they can, have the information there for them. And literally we'll get, it's like overwhelming the amount of like support, like Andy and I will get, just how thankful they are. Like when he talks about topics as a dietitian, like they're just like, we don't get this like good quality information. So they're just so thankful. And it's like the best thing to see. They're like saying how much it helped them, and it's amazing, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, even hearing that, like it's motivating, but that means a lot to me, right? Because like that's what we're doing ultimately.
Exactly.
Whatever capacity you're doing it in, this is what you want to get out of it. So yeah, I mean, like I always tell you, like it's kind of a joke, like we're not playing games out here. Like writing is not like fun and games. Like you don't just write, like you write if you enjoy it, it's very rewarding, but it's not for fun and games. Like you're helping people, you're developing yourself, you're developing your career, you're opening doors for yourself. I mean, you guys already know, what I've been engaged in writing wise, whatever, like 10 books and writing for all sorts of websites all over the web, whatever the case may be. Like, so yeah, I mean, I hope today's chat gave you some insight into the value of it. And, Kat and I, we're going to be talking again, and we got to figure out what the heck we're going to talk about. We'll probably talk about some skin health topics. If anyone has things that they want us to touch on, you can leave a comment. Other than that, I'm going to put Kat's writing in the link in the description. I'll put the link to my calligraphy webpage in case this is inspiring anyone to get into writing there as well. But yeah, any last thoughts, Kat?
Well, you did say what articles we have coming next.
Oh,
which I
shoot.
didn't
Okay.
answer.
Yeah.
But so we have.
You tell me what you're writing. I'm going to tell you what I'm writing.
Okay, I'm writing type 2 diabetes and artificial sweeteners. So that's going to be a good one.
That's a good one.
You won't want to miss that one. Definitely good information. We know there's some controversy there, so that'll be a good one.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, guys, thanks to everyone who helps promote my type 2 diabetes book, which just came out. It's doing well. I mean, it's in like the top 15,000 books on Amazon, which is a pretty big deal for like a random dude. And it's like top 15 in its category. So yeah, that's sweet. I'm looking forward to reading that. I was joking about this with you earlier, but I'm literally writing an article on nutrition and for sperm health and male fertility. And that's the thing, right? Like when I first started, this is the funniest thing of all. And we'll end on this note. Like when I first started writing years ago, my good friend, and he didn't mean this in a negative way. He's like, you keep writing, you're gonna run out of ideas. Like, you're writing too much. I'm like, I'm here 5-6 years later, 10 books, hundreds of posts later, and like the ideas don't ever run out. Like that's the joy of it. Whether you do reflective writing to share your life experiences, whether you do research-based writing where you're sharing facts, or something in between, like the opportunities, the permutations, even within one topic, are limitless. So keep that in mind, guys. Kat, thank you for doing this. It was this was pretty dope, pretty blessed.
Yeah.
We didn't really, we didn't know how it was going to work. And yeah, that's it, guys. We'll see you for the next one. All right. Peace.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.